again. Another episode in the autumn sessions. I'm back at the same water as I was in the previous video, the local one, just a few hundred yards from my door. I popped in yesterday, just for a few hours, literally about 3.5 hours. I had some other things to do during the day, but I really desperately wanted to do a few hours fishing, so I popped in, and this happened. Well, I've only popped in the pond for a few hours. I couldn't really do a full day session today, so I just thought, well, I'll pop in for a couple of hours and just see what happens. One rod, drop it in the margins, and I've got lucky. Got this lovely 19-pound 10-ounce autumn mirror. What a lovely fish, really deep bodied, lovely scaly fish. I actually watched him take the hook bait. I was just checking to see if there was any fish in the swim, because I'm fishing right in the edge, keeping out of sight behind the bushes. I knew there was one or two fish in the swim, and I looked down and I just saw his back, and I could see him right over the top of the hook bait. I saw him pick it up, and he didn't like it very much. Wow, what a fish. Gave me a right run around as well. It's a tight little swim. As I say, I'm only using one rod. Gave me a lovely fight. Just quickly show you the other side and then we're getting back. Don't want to mess him about too much. What a fish, that's lovely. Look at this. Hey, steady girl. The shape of it. What a lovely fish. Be a 20 in a couple of weeks. As I say, 19.10 at the moment. They're obviously getting their heads down and fattening themselves up ready for winter, so this will be a definite winter 20. Really chuffed with this one. Glad I popped in. Wonderful. So that was a good result. I dropped into a little tight swim. It really only warranted one rod, and I dropped it in the margins and just scattered a few broken and whole baits around the area. And after a little while, a few fish started to drift in, and I could see them feeding on the baits. And as I said in that short clip, I actually saw the mirror I caught picked the hook bait up. Really exciting stuff. So I've dropped back in the same swim as I was in last week, more out of necessity. There's a couple of guys elsewhere on the lake, and where they're fishing it sort of cuts off that bottom end of the lake, and I'm not the most sociable angler, so I've dropped right up the other end, far end, back into where I was last week. So it's quite a cool autumnal day. Sun's in and out, lots of clouds about. Still got the westerly wind. It's not northwesterly this time, it's westerly or west-southwest, but it's still quite a cool wind. But I say there were quite a few fish up this end of the lake yesterday afternoon when I was here, so I thought, well, nothing to lose really, just drop back in the same swim, and at least I'll get some peace and quiet and can do my own thing. I'm using the boat this week to put the baits out. Well, as I've said before, love them or hate them, they've got their uses, and if they're allowed, then why not, you know. I felt that last week, the couple of casts that I did do perhaps put the fish on edge. They've had a bit of a hammering recently, and they do seem quite nervous. The fish I tried to stalk last week, they were right in the edge, and I kept low on the ground, you know, belly on the grass, and I've stalked plenty of fish over the years, you know, and I know what I'm doing, but they just weren't having any of it. They were really spooky, you know. As soon as I put the hook bait in the edge, they were gone. They really didn't want to know. So they're obviously very nervous at the moment. So using the boat, just, you know, adds that little bit of stealth. Just I can get it in position first time, no cast, no thud of the lead. Put a nice tight little patch of bait on the bottom with the hook bait amongst it, and hopefully it won't put them on edge. We shall see. So I'm using yet another different bait today. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just clearing out the freezer. I've got some baits left over and they need using up. I don't like keeping them in the freezer for too long. So I'm not applying a bait to this water. I'm just, as I said, using up what I've got in the freezer for now. All the baits I use, I've got total confidence in. You really don't need any pre-baiting. They're very good instant baits as well as long-term baits. I've been using them for a number of years now. I don't know if I will apply a bait to this water as we go into the winter. That will have to be something that I'll play by ear. I always play that by ear. If I feel that I do need to start applying bait, if they're being a little bit cagey, not very forthcoming, then I might have to resort to applying a bait, but I'd rather not have to do that. There's several reasons really, but the main one is once you start applying a bait and you really get them on it, you know, this might sound crazy, but you know you can catch lots of fish, but I don't want to catch them too quickly. I'd rather just catch them at a steady pace. Otherwise it's all over and done within a short period, and then you think, well, what do I do now? You know, I've caught them all, sort of thing. But I say, each water is different. Some waters do need bait supplying to get the fish to feed, but I don't think this one is one that you know, certainly not at the moment anyway. Doesn't really warrant it. They're feeding up for the winter, so you know, I think just as long as I'm careful with the amounts I use and how I apply the bait during the sessions, and say using the boat as well for stealth, and hopefully I'll just continue plodding on and catching the odd one or two each week. Right, so had a bit of a result. I'll tell you the story behind it in a minute, because I don't want to keep this fish out of the water for too long. Bit of a historic fish for the water, this one. And again, I'll tell you the story in a minute. But for now, we got a 31.5 pound mirror carp called the Linear. been in the water a very long time, almost as long as I've been fishing it. She's got a bit of tail damage there on the top load, which she sustained a little while ago, but it looks like it's trying to heal. A little bit down in weight. She's normally sort of 33, 34, but she's still plenty heavy enough. I'll just quickly show you the other side. As I say, I don't want to keep her out of the water too long. She's trying to heal that wound, so you see the two-tone mark on her flank there. Beautiful fish. Absolutely stunning fish. I'm made up. Lovely. I'll get her back and then I'll tell you the story. Phew. Well, that was a bit hectic for a minute. So what had happened is I decided to wind in and go for a walk around. I just felt that perhaps there weren't any fish up that end today. So I took the bucket with me to bait a few likely looking spots anyway. I got to the opposite end of the lake and there were a few fish milling about under the trees, and I thought, right, okay then. So I grabbed the gear and I hot-footed it down to this end of the lake instead. And I picked a small tight swim, a couple of big trees either side. And even though I'm fishing at close range, I still use the boat to drop the baits out because of the fish being in under the trees and everything. I didn't want to spook them with a cast, so I just manoeuvred the boat very slowly as if it was a duck or something, just mooching about near the trees. Dropped the baits out. Literally, I'd just got settled down and the left-hand rod whacked round and I was into a fish. And I knew almost straight away which fish it was. I could tell just by the weight. And then it rolled over a couple of times and I thought, yeah, I know who you are. So knowing which fish it was, I bundled it into the net quite quickly because I didn't want her to get too much power up because of the proximity of the trees. So normally she fights quite hard under the rod tip. She's renowned for it, so I didn't want any of that. So as soon as I could, I just bundled her into the net. Another reason was I didn't want to exert her too much because of that tail damage. It's obviously starting to heal. There's a little membrane across the top corner where it's starting to try and regrow. It's not much, it's only about 3/4 of an inch, but it is trying to heal itself. It's a real shame that she lost that top lobe, but these things happen, I suppose, so that's that. I've caught that fish quite a few times over the years, in truth. The biggest weight I've had it, I think, was about 34.5, 34.10, something like that. I can't exactly remember, but I know it was 34 something. But she's obviously dropped back quite a bit because she gets caught quite a bit, and she's trying to, as I say, heal that top lobe. It was nice to see her again though. She looked in reasonably fine fettle, always good to see. Yeah, so a bit unexpected, but there we are. Now that fish was stocked, I think, in about the early 90s. I think it was 92, 93, something like that. I can't exactly remember, but it was somewhere around then, and they went in as fish about that big, as far as I know. And then the following year, I think we were catching them at about £1. And they've grown ever since. She was one of a batch of fish that went in at the time, and she's obviously been up to the late record size of 34.10, which I don't think anybody's had it bigger than that as far as I know. And yeah, so that will make her what, about 30 years old, thereabouts, something like that. So yeah, done really well in the water. So as I say, that's why I didn't want to stress her too much by messing about with her and keeping her out of the water too long. I just literally filmed her up for you on the mat and then put her back, and that was it. I didn't bother with photographs or anything like that. I'll just grab a still off the camera, off the film. So yeah, so the little move paid off. I had a feeling that I was in the wrong place up that top end, but the chaps that were down this end that were sort of preventing me from fishing this area disappeared. So about late morning, I think it was. So I'm pretty much, well, yeah, I've got the place to myself again. So it's always good if you can, you can have a walk round and pretty much do your own thing and do what you want. So it paid off. A bit hot and sweaty at the moment. Temperature's gone up quite a lot. But they're obviously in the mood to feed.